Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and I'm back with another edition of Yarn Love, where I work with Red Heart to show off one of their fantastic new yarns and give you a closer look in case you haven't been able to catch it in the stores yet. In this edition, I am looking at Red Heart Hygge Charm, which is a beautiful yarn that comes in 16 different colors, 5 of which you can see right here. Let's take a closer look together. All right, now the first thing you might notice is just how big this ball is. It is a solid 7 ounces, which is 432 yards or 395 meters, so you're getting a great value with these balls of yarn. If I keep turning over the label here, you can see it's 97% acrylic and 3% other fibers. I believe that other 3% probably has something to do with the great sparkle that you'll see in this yarn. Turning over a little bit more here, you can see it's a machine wash cold, gentle cycle, tumble dry low, and it is a worsted medium Aran weight. UK, that would be a 10 to 12 ply. They do recommend that you buy enough of the same dye lot to complete the project. It has dye lots, but I haven't noticed a big difference between dye lots yet in my own use of this yarn. I also want to point out how very cool these names are. They all have sort of astronomical names. This gray one is called Shooting Star. If I pick up the pink one here, it is called Meteor. And the white one, I believe, is, yes, Starlight. And the blue one, oh gosh, isn't this pretty? I just really love this deep blue with that sparkle in it. This one's called Supernova. So like I said, there's 16 different colors of this yarn. So you can check out all the colors and the great names at the link in the description above or below, depending on how you're watching this video. So go to the link in the description. Again, you can find links out to this yarn and everything else you're going to see in this video, because I'm not done yet. Now I want to show you how it works up. Now, one of the questions I get a lot about yarn is whether or not it's a center pull ball. And if we take a look at this end, you can see the layers. So this one would be a good one to pull from the center. That said, I had great success getting center pulls with these until I didn't. And when I didn't, I ended up with a big bunch of yarn barf I had to untangle. So it's totally up to you. You can pull from the center with this one or from the outside, whichever you prefer. I also went ahead and actually tore this little piece of the yarn here by hand so that you could get a better look. Rather than cutting it, it just sort of shows off the structure a little better. Here you can see that it's made up of several strands that are sort of loosely wound together. And you can also see, I hope, that there's a bit of a brushed feel to this yarn. It's got a bit of a halo. It's not a huge halo. It's a softer halo, but it is definitely there. So that will be a factor when you use this yarn as well. So when I pull up this end again right here where I tore it, you can see that when it's torn like that, it does want to unwind a little bit into the individual strands. Now that means that it can split a little bit when you are using it with a hook or knitting needles. But I found that it wasn't too bad. Once in a while I would get a little split, but it was usually just one string, and I would just undo that stitch and it would come out and I could fix it right there and then. So that was pretty easy. So now let's go ahead and make a few stitches with this pretty yarn. All right, now if you look at the label for Hygge Charm, you'll see that they recommend a 5mm or 8 US knitting needle, and that's what I have here. These ones are by Susan Bates. And I've made a small swatch already of the garter stitch. You can see how beautifully sparkly it is, and it's got actually really great drape. Even though this is the garter stitch and I didn't upsize the needles at all, it's a very nicely flexible fabric that I've gotten. Just simple garter stitch. Very simple, very easy, really beautiful. I think this works up beautifully in knitting, and I think I only split the yarn once when I was making this swatch, so that was pretty good, especially for me, knitting not being as good for me as my crochet. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the crochet swatch. And if we look at the label for crochet hooks, they recommend an I9 or 5.5mm. Now, I've made a couple patterns with this. One's done and one's in progress. Actually, that's what you see here. A bit more than a swatch. It's actually a sleeve for a new cardigan I'm working on. And I actually chose for this one to go up to a J hook, which would be a 6mm. And for the other pattern that I came up with in this, I used a K. So you can definitely upsize the hook a little bit if you want to increase drape, which is one of the reasons I did that here. Now, I'll go ahead and just take a couple stitches with this yarn so you can see it in action. Like I say, you have to be a little careful not to split the yarn, especially if you have a pointier hook. But it slides on the hook pretty easily. I'm using a wooden hook here, and I used metal knitting needles, as you saw, and the yarn really does slide along both pretty easily, although it certainly slid along the metal a little faster. So if you're a speed knitter or crocheter, you may want to use metal or resin or something a little slicker than wood. That said, the frogging, like I said, it splits a little bit, so if it has split and you've worked over that, that can impact the frogging. But for the most part, I haven't had any problem frogging it. If the fuzz does get caught a little bit, a little extra tug usually pulls it right out. And you can see, now that I've taken a few stitches with it, it's fuzzed up a little bit more from use than it was before, but not significantly. It's pretty subtle. So I haven't had any problems frogging it and reusing the yarn at all. It's also been very consistent color to color. I have gone through several skeins, probably more than 10 skeins now in 3 different colors, and I think I found maybe one knot in all of them, which is really fantastic. Like I say, the weight's been really consistent color to color. I haven't found any issues there. No thin or lumpy bits. It's just been very, very smooth, very straight. Well, I mean, it's got a halo and it's fuzzy, but it's been a nice, very reliable yarn. It's got just a little bit of stretch, not too much to speak of, but just enough to make it comfortable to use. And I would say it works just as well for crochet as it does for knitting. I don't know if I would recommend Hygge Charm for a very, very new beginner as sort of a first yarn, simply because of the splitting. However, anybody with any experience knitting or crocheting will probably fall in love with this yarn right away, both for its sparkle and its softness. I've really had a lot of fun using it for garments, but I think it would be beautiful for home decor products as well. Because it's acrylic, it'll stand up well to children and washing, so that's always a good sign. And it's just really fun, especially this time of year, to add a little sparkle and bling to our projects. So I'm having a lot of fun with this yarn, and I hope you'll give it a try too. Thank you so much for watching this edition of Yarn Love, and thank you to Red Heart for providing this gorgeous yarn. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Happy yarning!